Then I'll share my screen and get started.
Okay.
Here you go. So today I want to focus mostly on the budgeting, not budgeting rather, but the project management part. That is basically because this is an NGO, how you do budgeting for projects. So the first thing that we are going to do here is to look at the project. I will just brush through the project because I believe there is a project team and then there is the accounting team. And because this is more of accounting team, I'll focus more on the budgeting side, the reports, and the kind of the way you report financials for projects, other than focusing so much on the projects. So if I come to the project module and I go to this add project button here, I can just go ahead and edit this in full form so that I can see all the details. So here, the first thing is the project name, of course. Then we have the status of the project. This is normally changed when maybe the project is completed or cancelled. As you can see, when you are starting, it is in status open. Then we have the project type. You may decide to group your projects into types, like external projects, internal projects, or probably for NGOs there could be donor funded projects. There could be maybe I don't know, maybe grants projects and things like those. All those types. The way you want to categorize your projects, you can do that there. Then here we have a status. Now, this status, whether active or not, helps us in. Let me allow someone in. Give me a second. Let me go here. Admit. So I was talking about this active. This allows us to, or rather users to report the status of the tasks, and I could have increased this font a little bit. So if the project is in status inactive, so this is going to be no, then this project you cannot really report anything on it. So mostly for the projects that are active, this is going to be a yes. Then here we have completion method, whether it's task, manual. Manual is where you need to select the completion status manually. It could be on task completion. When you say task completion, when you go to tasks, it means every task has to be weighed so that we know this task carries 1% of the total project weight. And therefore, when you complete those tasks, it automatically updates the completion percentage of the project. Then here we have task progress. This goes even deeper. So instead of only capturing the task completion, this also takes care of the progress of the task. Then we have the task weight. So this is where you have weighted tasks such that some carry more weight than others, and therefore if you complete a task that carries more weight than the other, that is of course going to cover more percentage in the project scope. Now there is something, let me see. Ball, you may need to mute kindly. I don't know whether Ball can hear us. Ball, please, if you can hear us, mute your mic. We can hear you.
Let me tell her to mute. Let me go to office and tell her to mute.
I will have to mute her from here. Okay, that's fine. So we continue. So the other things that we have here is things like the templates. So we can create also project templates. In the project template, what we normally have there, or the importance of this is when you have projects that look kind of the same. So the tasks are looks like the same, the way you report is the same. So in this case, you can create a template for that project. And therefore, when you are creating this, you just need to select a template here. And all the settings that you have put in that template are loaded into this project. So this is a feature that saves a lot of time when creating projects. Then here we have expected start date and expected end date. You just mentioned those there. Then we have priority. Some projects have higher priority than others. So here we have low, medium, and high. You can select which one. Then you may also need to attach projects to departments. And that is why we have this field here for attaching the departments. Then we have customer details. If this project is customer specific, or it belongs to a specific customer, you can attach that customer there. You are here then presented with a table where you can add users who are going to be given access to this project. So unless if you are an admin or a system admin, if your name is not here, you cannot access that project, you cannot report on it. So it is only the people that are going to be added in this table that will have such privileges. Then we have notes. Now, after you have recorded all what we have captured here, there could be that information that is maybe in prose format, and you like to capture that here. Maybe the details of what this project is about. You can keep, you can put all that in there. Yes, Dominic, please.
Kindly, can you start afresh? When you are, I put you on the middle because I went to tell Esther to mute the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
You were still on.
Sorry, no problem, Dominic. Where did you lose me?
From template.
Oh yeah, so let me go back here then. So the template, what I was saying about the template is that the template here helps us to group those features of a project that are shared by other projects. So for example, if you have a group of projects, or even if maybe it's not a group, but they are projects that are sharing the same features, like maybe the tasks look like they are the same, maybe the people working on them looks like they are the same. If there are things that you can group and say that these are applicable for project A, B, C, and D, you can create that as a template here. And let me increase the writing here. And that way you can be selecting that template here when you are creating the project, and it is going to inherit all those features of that template. The other thing we have here is the expected start date. This is basically the date when you are expecting that you are going to start a project. This is just for management purposes. And then we have an expected end date. So this is going to help you to track progress against what you expected are going to be the dates when you're going to be finalizing the project. Then here we have priority. Of course, projects come with a priority, and we have currently 3 priorities in the system. It could be either low, medium, or high. So depending on how you treat the project, you can pick that one there. Then here we have a department, meaning that we can also group these projects by department. That means that if maybe a project belongs to department A, you can attach that one here. Department B, C, D, you can add that department per project. Then coming down to the next section, we have the field here for customer. This is in the event that the project is for a specific customer. You could be having those projects that maybe are just for one person who is your customer, and therefore you can attach this project here, and the customer is also going to be able to track how the project is progressing. The other thing we have here are users, and here the users that you are going to be adding here are the only ones that are going to be given access to the project. Of course, unless if someone is a system administrator. All the other users within the system cannot access it, cannot report on it, unless you decide to add them here. And of course, this is a table that has an unlimited number of users that you can add, so there is no limit to that. Then this is where I was on the notes, and I was saying that after adding all this information that you have added here, you notice that this is very specific information. There could be those details that have not been captured there and you feel are important for your project. And that is why here we have an open text field where you can type your things, you can add some bold text, you can decide to underline others, you can even attach images, you can add links, and such things. You can even include your own tables within this field. So all that text or all that narration that you feel is important for your project or for people that are involved in this project, you can capture that one there. Then we have costing and billing. This is where you specify things like the estimated cost of the project. The company is when you have multiple companies, so you can also create a project and decide, or rather attach a company to it. And then we have the default cost center. So mostly the system defaults this to main, but if you would like to specify that the cost center is not main, then you can do that here. This is going to be applicable if you have the branches within your company. So for example, there is branch A, which is in location Z. You have branch B, which is in location Y. If you have such things, then you can create those branches as cost centers, and you are going to be able to report projects and everything else for each and every cost center. So you also know, other than going down to the project, you are going to see project profitability later. You can also know the profitability of a cost center. Then here we have monitoring progress. If you want to collect progress, you can do that. If you pick this, you notice that there's a number of things that show up. The first one is the holiday list. The importance of a holiday list here is to tell the system when people are not working. So for example, if it's a weekend, if it's a public holiday, those days are not going to be factored in. So when we are creating the holiday list, we just tell the system which days are not working days for the staff. So it will also ignore those. It's not going to send notifications to them during those days. Then we have frequency of collection, because this, remember, is an automated progress report, not rather report, but progress collection of data. You can tell the system that I want you to collect hourly, or twice a day, or daily, or once a week. So you can specify which one or how frequent you want the system to be collecting that data there. Then here you can also specify from between what time and what time should the I here, I mean the system, collect this data. So here we have the from, and then we have the to time. So again, if you don't want the system to be busy doing stuff at night, you can just limit that there. Then here again we have the that is up there. We discussed that. Here we have the message. This message, you can see down here we have even a description. It says message will be sent to the users who get their status on the project. So the message you are going to put here is what is going to be sent to the users, or rather the users that will have put here on this table when the system has collected this information. So the message you would like them to receive, you are going to put it here, and then the system is going to be automatically sending that. Now that's all about the project. I had created one project. Of course, it's a dummy project, says construction of ABCD dam, and there is nothing much that I did other than just what we have discussed. And actually, we can just duplicate this so that we have our own project. Let's say this is XYZ dam. Save it, and there we go. We have our project. This is project 2. Now, after the project, let me see my notes here. The next thing that we are going to be looking at is the budget. So we are going to go ahead and create a budget now. Now, if you go here again to our awesome search up there, and you type budget, I have one budget here, but again, I'm going to ignore it. Basically, when you come here, you're going to see the list of all the budgets you have, but we can ignore this and create our own, because I want to explore this deeply. This is now touching accounts directly. The first thing we are going to do, because remember, we want to do a budget for a project. So where we have budget against, by default is going to be cost center. Change that to project. When you do that, you notice that there is a field that's going to come down here saying project. So we need to select our project, which is construction of XYZ dam, the one we just created now. So I pick that. The company, again, this is obvious. It's the company that is going to be involved. This will pick the default company, but definitely you can change that if you have multiple companies. The other thing is the fiscal year. So of course this is going to be the current year, but in the event it is any other year, you're going to be able to select all the year, any year rather, that is available and active in your fiscal years. The other thing after this, before we come down here, is this. This is very important. Monthly distribution is how you would like the budget to be distributed. If I come here, we have one monthly distribution we are calling donor projects. But let's suppose that we want to create a new one. I can just click on this, create a new monthly distribution. And here, you notice that when I did that, even ignoring this one, you're going to give it a name later. Down here, the system has generated 12 months, January to December. And on the right, it has given me the percentages. Now, these percentages are equal. So it's 8.333% for all the months. Meaning, if for example you have a budget of 100 shillings, January is going to be allocated 8.33 shillings. February is going to be allocated the same amounts. Dominic, can ask you a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask you this one.
Yes.
Because you see, with the budget for donors,
Yes.
you might find out that the project maybe goes for 6 months or 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
But there are those activities that will capture for some a certain duration of period, and others, there are those that are not running for the whole year.
Yes.
Or the whole project.
Yes. So if you have a project that's not running for the whole year, Dominic, you just delete these things. So you can pick these, the ones that you don't need, and delete, so that you only have 6 months here. And then within these 6 months, you can distribute the percentages that you want. Again, this must not be must not be 8. I can decide that this is going to be 20, this is going to be 10, this is going to be 30, this is going to be, how much is that? That is 50. Maybe this one 10, this one another, no, that's 20, not 10. And then December, because people are out for holidays, we do 10. I hope this is 100, 30, 50, yes, that's 100. So after that, the next thing you're going to do here is to allocate a name for your budget. And we can say this is our test name of our project. Then the fiscal year you need to select, not mandatory, but I think it's good practice to pick your fiscal year there. Then you go ahead and save it. Oh, I think I have 110 here, so I need to change this to maybe 10, and then I go ahead and save. So you notice that there is that validation there, so that you do not allocate 110% out of 100% of your money. So this is where we were. So we just created this distribution. Now we can select it there, and just like that, this budget will have this as its reporting period. I'm going to show you that in the reports. Now we are done with this part. We come down here. This is where you are going to specify what you want to happen in the event that somebody is trying to over allocate a budget. You have here applicable on material request. You can pick that. When you do that, there are some other things that show up. The first one is asking you, what is the action you like to take if annual budget exceeds on material request? You can either decide to stop, one, or ignore. Alright? Same thing if this is accumulated monthly. So for the annual is now the total annual budget, which in our case is going to be 6 months. But the monthly is when, for example, my annual budget is say $1 million, but my monthly budget is 200,000, and I'm trying to do an action that is in March. Maybe my March budget is 200,000, but I'm doing something in March that is 300,000. You notice that 300,000 is more than the 200,000 of allocated to March, but it's still below the annual budget. So this is what is going to take care of that part. You can stop, and you can also ignore. That is for material request. Same thing for purchase order, so we can just leave that one there. And then we also have the same thing for actual expenses. We can also leave that one there. We are done with that. The other thing that is very important, of course, for the accountants like yourselves is the accounts. What are the budgeting accounts that we are talking about? We can do, for example, this one and say that for administrative expenses, we are going to allocate a budget of 100,000. And then we go down here, so you can specify the budget not only for the whole project, but rather for individual accounts. What do I want to be, for example, let me see whether I have travel. Yeah, travel expenses, I want this to be, maybe people travel a lot, do 300,000. We can leave those two there. But as you can see, you can have as many accounts here as you wish. There is no limit. Go ahead and save it. And then I submit. But again, remember from our yesterday's meeting, if you are submitting, you have confirmed that what you have done is accurate. And that is it. That is how we do our budget. Now, if there is anyone with a question, I can take that question before we go to the next stage, which is going to be now the purchase order. And the purchase order is going to be guiding us to see whether really this project, I want to put my notes somewhere I can see without having to cover this. But it's fine. So we are going to be seeing how we raise a purchase order or something like that, and see how the budget is preventing it from preventing us from overspending on it. Let me know whether there is anyone with a question, please. Okay, thank you so much. Now, proceeding, we are going to move away. I want to leave this open because I want us to remember these figures. So allow me to open a new tab here. So I go here, I leave this here, then I go to this other new tab. Now, we are going to do a purchase order. So, a purchase order. And in the purchase order, remember, this is how you're going to be raising these purchases if you want the budgets to kick in. So I raised it, a new one. Then I pick a random supplier. Mine is just one, so I don't even think I have. it's really random. Then I pick maybe the expected delivery date of this, or rather when they are required is on 27th. And I come down here and I pick anything. Maybe something like office consumables. Now, when I do that, this is going to 300,000. Our budget, remember, for office consumables is how much? We don't have that. But if you come down here, for example, we are going to put this inside administrative expenses, which has a budget of 100,000. So if I come here and I change this to let me even do 110,000. So we are already exceeding the budget. The next thing I need to do, if you see this pencil button here, or edit button, depending on how you want to call it, if I click on it, it's going to open more information. Scrolling down, there is a place you are going to see accounting details. Opening it, we have an expense account here. We need to change this to our expense account, which is administrative expenses. And then in the accounting dimensions, we attach this to our project. So our project is construction of XYZ dam. So we pick it there. That is the only thing we need to do. Of course, you can do so many other things like attaching the cost center. And of course, many other things here. Manufacturing doesn't make sense. And there's one thing I need to mention here. If you have multiple cost centers and your users are attached to only specific cost centers, we can automate this so that the system learns who is logged in, sees this is Dominic logged in here. And then all these things like cost center are going to be automatically populated by the system. You don't need to pick that. So after I have done that, I am going to go ahead and save. Saving is going to allow me, no problem, because that is just a document that probably you are still working on. Again, borrowing from our yesterday's meeting. But now let me go ahead and try to submit this purchase order. Go ahead and click on submit. It wants to see or to confirm whether I am really sure I want to confirm. I say yes. But then something else shows up. You see this? Tells me annual budget for accounting this against project this is 100,000. It is being exceeded by this amount. So you can see that that budget has already kicked in, stopping us from overspending. So if I want to stop that, maybe change here to 10,000. That is going to allow me to submit. So I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to submit. And there we go. The budget has been, not budget, but the purchase order has been submitted. Now, the other thing that I would like to show you is a number of other things. Like we are going to look at 3 more documents. The first one is the expense claim. The other one is journal entry, and the other one is payroll entry. All those documents also are affected by that budget, but that is when you specify that the, for example, an expense claim that you are raising is for that project. So let me show you that. If I come here and I go to expense claim, you see this? This is in the HR department, and I raise a new expense claim here. I pick my random employee, which is just one again. There is a number of things that I need to do. Expense approval, we need to pick which one. Then down here again, we need to pick a number of things. Like one, what are the expenses I'm reporting? The first one is the date when we spent this. Maybe it was on Monday 10th. Expense claim type, maybe traveling. Description, maybe traveled from A to F. Of Of course, travel doesn't have a double L, so I need to remove that. The amount here, again, let's try and do an overspending. Let me see. Traveling costs, the amount, and then we have a project here. Let's do a project, the same project that we had. And then in the amount here, we try to do 400,000. Yeah, 400, that is 40,000. We do 400,000. When we do that and we save, again, saving is not a problem. It's going to allow us. And we need to confirm that we have our project attached. Yes, there we go. We have our project attached there. So if I try to submit this expense claim, it's not going to allow me. So it's saying that accounts payable mandatory for, okay, we need to pick the account payable. Let me go to accounting, and I need to pick the payable account. I can just pick that, and then I try to submit it again. Oh, sorry, I need to change something else here to approved, and then I go ahead and submit. When I submit that, you see the budget again is complaining. It's telling me that the annual budget for this, for travel expenses, is being exceeded. It's 300,000, so I'm exceeding it by 100,000. So the system does not allow you also, just by the virtue of attaching a project here. And what that tells you, ladies and gentlemen, is that here in the expenses you can also have multiple. It must not be one. You can have multiples. If I add another row there, I can add another type. And you see, by the way, in the expense claim type, if I click on this to simulate a situation where I need to create a new expense claim, you notice that here, this is where we are attaching the accounts. So you notice that, let me show you this again. You notice that, let me remove this and show you. Save it, and then I submit. You notice that this is telling me that annual budget for account travel expenses. How did it know it's travel expenses? We did not attach anywhere that account. The reason why it knows that is because here in this expense claim type, we have this travel expenses as the account. So when you are creating a new expense claim, let me go back here so that I don't lose you. If I go back here and create this and I say I want to create a new one, when I come here, after giving it a name, I can attach the account here. The account which is going to be taking care of this. This is the expense account which is going to be taking care of that specific expense. So if we have any question, I can take it now. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the other documents, which are journal entry and payroll entry. Then we roll down to the reports.
I will also like you to cover when we are writing a check or a petty cash, posting using a check or petty cash.
Okay. How do you post a petty cash? Is that through a journal entry?
You can use journal, or there's a direct way where you just open the. You know how QuickBooks work. Have you interacted with the QuickBooks?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Dominic. Okay, so I'm going to show you today using the journal because we do not have a direct way of doing it out of the box within the current system, but that is something that can be customized to have that. So if you want a place that we are calling something like petty cash, where you go there, add new petty cash, and then you add your details, we can do that, Dominic. We have done it for some other clients, but that is a feature that is normally requested first.
Okay, I would love to request that, because
Okay.
the journal majority, if you use journals in accounting,
Yeah.
it normally look very congested.
Okay. So let me record that. Okay. Petty cash. Okay, that one is noted. Now, the other thing that I would like to see, let me go actually to journal so that you can see how we do that in a journal. Again, from our awesome search, we just look for journal entry list. That is going to take us to the list of all the journals that we have, and then I can add a new journal here. So when I add a journal, you can even decide to specify that, let me see,
Entry.
We can leave it as journal entry. And then here we can decide to put a template, not a must. And then here in the accounts, this is where we are going to specify all the information. For example, we need to pick an account here, like maybe cash. And then here we have the type. We don't need the type, we don't need the party. When I click on this pencil button, as usual, this is where the magic happens. In the accounting dimensions, we have the project. So you can attach a project here. We can pick our project too. And then here we have other details like the amount that we are talking about, either debit or credit. Now, when we do this, now this the journal keeps this debit and credit. So when I am doing this, let me see. This is supposed to be creditors, supplier, yes. So I say I'm paying this guy. And then here I'm going to have office expenses. Let me see what was the account. We are now going to use office administrative expenses, not office. Administrative expenses, we pick that one there. Now I want to pay this guy. So tell me, ladies and gentlemen, which side do I need to credit, which side do I need to debit?
You will debit admin expenses and you will credit.
I'll credit this other guy. Okay. Now, when I do that, of course, now remember that we are debiting this account here, which does not have a budget of 400,000. The budget we have there is 100,000, so we can even change this to maybe something like 150,000. It's not going to allow us to do that. 150,000. So if I save, again, saving does not have any effect because we are just probably just saving it so that you can proceed later. But when I try to confirm it, again, this shows like it has gone through. Let me see whether, I think I did not attach, let me just confirm something. I think I didn't attach a project. Yeah, I didn't attach the project. So you noticed that when I have not attached the project here, this thing has actually gone through. Now, suppose you are doing this, the real thing, and you notice that this one has actually gone through. This is my mistake. So the only thing you need to do here, notice that, remember that, or rather notice that this is not something you can change. The moment you submit this document, I think I mentioned yesterday, you cannot change it anymore. That document remains like that forever. But you can get a copy of it and amend it. You do that by first of all cancelling this document, because remember this has already affected the ledgers. And you don't want to leave it there because it's going to give you wrong figures in your accounting books. So we cancel the document. After you have cancelled, there is a button that's going to show up there that says amend. So if I click on it, it's now going to take this document back to the state where it was. And I'm going to tell the system that these administrative expenses belong to, going back to the accounting dimensions, belong to project 2. Yeah. And then I go ahead and save it, and now I try to submit it. When I do that, the budget kicks in again, tells us that we cannot do that because the amount assigned to that project for that account is 100,000. So we are overdoing by 50,000. So that is in the journal entry, ladies and gentlemen. Payroll entry is the same. So I want to skip it so that we have enough time to look at the reports. All right, excellent. So let me change this so that we have maybe 5,000 here and 5,000 here. I want to be able to submit it so that we have some data in the reports. So I submit it, and there we go. Someone with a question? Dominic? Dominic, you wanted to ask something? I cannot hear you, Dominic.
I'm saying no question.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, first of all, you notice that when I change this thing to 5,000, the journal entry accepted the submission. So it has allowed me to submit it because this is within our budget. Now, The next thing is the reports, and there is only one report that I would really like us to look at. The report is called balance variance, not balance, but rather budget. It should be budget, I believe. Budget variance. Yes, excellent. Budget variance report. So if we come here, currently it is telling us that we have nothing to show. And that is because there is a filter here for cost center. So we need to change this to project. When you change to project, you notice that now something shows up here. We have, first of all, a graph up here that shows one bar in pink and shows a figure of around, this is 749,000 and something. And then we have another small one which is blue that shows a figure of 25,000. Now what are those? It can tell you down here. The pink one is the budget and the actual expense is the blue one. Now you also notice that here we have a filter for year. So the reason why we have this 749 whatever is because we have a year selected here and we have a number of projects. You notice that here we have project 1 and 2. So we can decide that we do not want to see all the projects, we want only project 2. So when you do that, this is what happens. Now the budget changes. You remember we had, actually we have it here, we can refer. We had 300,000 and 100,000 as the budget. So these are the monies we spread across different accounts. So when we come back here in the budget, this is in the budget variance report, you notice that we have 400,000 as the budget and we have 5,000 as the monies that have been spent. And you can see that has been spent only from administrative expenses report down here. You can also track that from here. And also this gives you a variance. So you can see the budget allocated for each account and the actual that has been spent. And then here we have the variance. Now this variance is going to be in red if it has been overspent. Let me see whether we have overspent anything. Let me change this to monthly, because again here you see we have monthly, quarterly, half yearly and yearly. Changes from yearly to monthly. When we do that, you remember Dominic, you asked this question. Notice that here we have a budget spanning from January to June, and the system shows you clearly that from July there is nothing, because we only told the system that this system is running from January to June. So those are the only times that you have a budget. And also notice that January and February we don't have anything. April, of course, we have not yet gone there, so we have not spent any money for those months. But in March, the system is showing us that out of the budget of 120,000 that has been allocated for March, we have spent 5,000. And you can also see that down here. This is another report that has been generated, which shows you again in every month. So for example, budget for January was this, actual for January was this, so nothing is spent. The variance is this, so this is in green, we're showing you have not spent anything. February the same. Let me scroll a bit to March. So February is there, March is starting here. Let me leave 1 February there. So March is starting here. For this account, March, we have not spent anything, so the variance is this. For this account, out of the budget of 30K, we have spent 5, so there's a variance of this. Again in green, meaning we are still in good books. And that goes all the way to December, ladies and gentlemen. So you notice that those months have no budget, so we don't have any reason to go there. It goes only up to June. Now, if I change this to project 1, let me uncheck this and check this. And you also notice something else, ladies and gentlemen, that here, you must not select one project because maybe you want to see 1, 2, 3 projects, especially because you are accountants. I can decide I want to see project 1 and project 2. You notice that this shows both projects. See that? And this probably is when you have more than 2 projects, 5, 10, 20 projects, and you want maybe to see 4 projects in this report. You can do that by just selecting them here. But for this one, you don't need project 2, so let me uncheck it. And then here, I'm only going to have project 1. Now, project 1, I had done it earlier, so they can show you what happens. You see, here, This one we have a variance of negative 33 because we had an allocation of 16,666 and we have spent 20,000. So here in March only, not in the whole year, in March we have spent March budget by 3,000 and something. So this gives you also a breakdown to see what is going on. And you can also see here that the budget that was allocated was at why is this showing 29? It's supposed to be 16 and this is 20. So this gives you a variance of 33. Let me know whether you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, for this report before we proceed.
No question.
Excellent. Now, the last thing I would like us to cover is tracking project revenue. Now, assume that, of course, now we can see how we can track expenses for a project. But what about the monies that are coming in? Because probably a donor has come, they are funding a specific project. How do you get that money into that project? Two ways you can do that. The first one is using the sales invoice. So you can treat that thing as a sales invoice. So if you want to go that way, you go to the sales invoice. You will notice that when you are creating a sales invoice, if you go down to accounting dimensions, one of the things we have is a project. Where did it go? Here. One of the things we have is a project. What's happening? I don't know why it's closing. Here. See, you can select your project even on a sales invoice. So when you do that, this money is going to be available for that project to be spent. But of course, it is going to be spent on a budget. Remember the budget that we created. So expenses are tied to budgets. But you can also have revenues for a project being recorded directly into a specific sales invoice. If you do not want to raise a sales invoice, of course, because you are not selling anything, some people reason like that, you can do a payment entry. Payment entry is not written like that. Payment entry. So payment entry. And here, you remember we explored payment entry yesterday exhaustively. So I'm just going to go straight to try and create a new one. Now, payment entries, here you need to specify the mode. This one we discussed yesterday. How did the money get to you? Was it a bank transfer, and to which bank? You can attach all that information there. Then here you don't need this information, so you can just leave it out. You don't need a customer, you don't need party, you don't need party name. That's not necessary because we are receiving this money probably from a donor. Now, I want to take you down here again to accounting dimensions. So you notice that most of the things that we are talking about are going to be around accounting dimensions if it's about reporting for projects. Now, if I open it, you notice that again, one of the things we have is a project. So what that tells you is that I can specify that the money I'm receiving here, which is probably maybe 2 million. This is account paid to. Let me just remove that. Let me pick a mode of payment here. Say this was what? This was cash, a check. Oh, this one does not have. Let me show you that error because this is necessary, especially for you being accountants. This thing is telling us something that is very important for us. It's saying that the default cash or bank account is not set for payment, for mode of payment check. What that error tells you is that if you receive money using that check, the system will not know where to put the money because you have not specified into which account this money is supposed to go. So what we should do is here in this check, or you see this arrow button here, or we can even go to mode of payment. And then in the mode of payment, there is one of them called check. This one. Where is it? This one. Here, you see we don't have any account. So the system does not know where to place the money. We just need to add a default account here. Maybe we can do just bank account there. Save it. So if you have multiple accounts there, you will be able to select them. And just like that, now when I come here and I select, I want to remove it and select it again so that we confirm. If I pick check, it's not going to complain. Yeah. So that one is now comfortable. And then I go down, of course, to my accounting dimensions and I can select my project, pick, this is the balance of the account, so it's telling us that there is a negative 100,000 there. So I can pick the project, and the money that you're going to be receiving here using this entry is going to be allocated to that project. So every time when you are in a project, let me take you here. Every time when you're in a project like this one, like this is the project we created. There is these connections. It's collapsed by default. If you open it, you'll see a number of things. The tasks, all these things are going to be there. And the other things that are here, you can see sales invoices, delivery notes, and sales order. So all those documents are going to be put here. Also, expense claims that are going to be attached to that project are also going to show up here. And of course, purchase invoices, so you can go directly to the purchase invoices of that that project, purchase receipts, and also purchase orders. Then we have updates there. Those are project updates, so I don't want to go into that because this is basically an accounting training. So ladies and gentlemen, that's where I would like to stop. That is what I had prepared for us for accounting, basically project accounting. But now the time that is left, I can use it to answer any specific questions that you may be having or any clarifications that you would like to seek.
Okay. Mr. Carney, thank you
Yes.
so much for this time.
You are welcome, Dominic.
I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
there is something which I don't know whether you said it earlier or the previous training.
Yes.
How to create now the project, like kind of, let me say, creating a company in the system.
In a company, right? So again, on the awesome search, if you look for company, you see we have a company list. So creating a new company, now currently I have only one company here. Creating a new company is as simple as coming here and adding a new company. And yeah, you notice that there is quite a number of information there. If you go to the accounting section, for example, there is a lot of stuff and accounts that you need to set up here as defaults. Those are going to be very helpful for you guys. So that's how you create new companies, Dominic.
Okay, I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think I don't have any question.
Okay.
That was the one that I needed.
Okay, that's excellent. I hope Bor is also comfortable now.
No, there's one thing I'm forgetting.
Yeah, go ahead, Dominic.
Like now, I was seeing when you were doing demo
Yes.
that if we are posting an expense that we have exceeded the budget,
Yes.
it shows you the red flag.
Yes.
But you see, sometimes scenario, budget is just a projection.
Mm-hmm.
It can either go up or down.
Right. Yeah.
And the system allow you to go beyond.
Yes.
what you had budgeted.
It can do that. You remember when we are setting a budget, we had these actions. So the reason why it's stopping me is because here in my budget, or rather in our budget today, we put the action here as stop. But you can decide to do, let me show you that. If you go here, you can decide here instead of stop, just warn me so that I know that I'm exceeding it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So if we do not have any other questions, maybe we can stop there. Bol, yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead, Bol.
Yeah, it was like a question asked by Dominic about how to do the petty cash there, but I did not click that one very well.
Yeah, so Dominic requested that we do a feature where you are going to be able to directly report or rather enter the petty cash. But currently, the demo that I showed today was for the journal entry. But for the petty cash ball, we are going to add that feature where you add it directly without having to create it as a journal entry. So I'm going to be communicating that to Abir, so that is going to be built into your system.
Okay.
Ball, any other question from your end?
Yes. No, it is okay. Your training is very clear.
Thank you so much. I appreciate.
Catching up.
I appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can end it there if you have no further questions. But remember that we are always here. So, when you are exploring the system and you notice that there is something you need to clarify, feel free to reach out to us anytime. We will be more than happy to ensure that you are confident with the system.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Karani.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so
If
much.
there's
Bye.
anything that will require,
Mhm.
we'll ask.
Of course, anytime. Anytime.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All the best.